have not confirmed this, but generally, when we get scores of phone calls, something's going on, and the network's phone lines are full of people to the point we can hardly even get to other folks' calls saying, why aren't you covering a nuclear meltdown in Nebraska? And I just heard about this about 2 minutes ago, and so I searched nuclear meltdown Nebraska, and I got News 6 Fort Calhoun flood defenses. And it says the Fort Calhoun nuclear facility is an island right now, but as one of the authorities say is going to stay dry. They say they have a number of redundant features to protect the facility from floodwaters that include the aqua dam, earthen berms, and sandbags. So I think this is just a bunch of hype and that there's a flood going on and people are saying this. But listeners are saying, why aren't you covering it? And I type it in and all I find out is stuff about Fukushima. So, I mean, it's kind of like on Y2K. It was on ABC News that a missile had been fired from Russia on ABC News. And then everybody called and said, why aren't you covering it? And I said, okay, they're reporting ABC News, missile fired. It's like, you made up a missile was fired. And I'm like, no, it was on ABC News. And then they said, oh, it was just a drill that the NORAD and the Russians were running as a joint friendship operation. So it was once some weird psyop they did. But I can find nothing here. There's a Business Insider report talking about airspace closed over flooded Nebraska nuclear power plant. So there's that. I really can't news gather myself while I'm live on air, but let me put this URL in because the link's not working for whatever reason here. And I'll try to find out what's going on with that. Airspace over flooded Nebraska nuclear power plant still closed. And this was last night. Business Insider, usually a pretty good source. It says, then a stupid ad just launched on here. Excuse me, folks. A fire in Nebraska's Fort Calhoun nuclear power plant briefly knocked out the cooling process for spent fuel rods. Wow. And that is a link to the report. I guess listeners are right. Is it just me or is all hell breaking loose every day now? They had that Canadian nuclear power plant dump tens of thousands of gallons of highly radioactive water in, and the media said it was no big deal. They said, well, it'll make the lake 20 times or more radioactive than it should be, but Canada's raised what they say the safe levels are, so everything's fine. And yeah, turns out we were right months ago. 3 of the 6 plants at Fukushima did completely melt down and blow up, each one many times worse than Chernobyl because the plants are bigger, and one was a plutonium-based system. And oh, my gosh, those radiation 7,500 times safe levels, but everything's fine. I just got dizzy for a minute. Just all this craziness happening. It just got overwhelming. And I didn't get chills just now. I actually just got dizzy. I gotta get out of here. There must be some kind of way out of here, like Jimi Hendrix says in the Watchtower. All along the Watchtower. A fire in Nebraska's Fort Calhoun nuclear power plant briefly knocked out cooling processes for spent nuclear fuel rods. Matt, will you post a link to this and then also to the ProPublica report? And it goes on, the fire occurred June 7th, so we never heard about this, and knocked out cooling for approximately 90 minutes. After 88 hours, the cooling pool would boil dry and highly radioactive material would be exposed. On June 6th, the Federal Administration of Aviation, FAA, issued a directive banning aircraft from entering the airspace within a 2-mile radius of the plant. No pilots may operate the aircraft in the area covered by this NOTAM. And they've got a link to the FAA statement. Remember what happened in Simi Valley back in the 50s? They had a sodium nuke plant blow up, and they kept it secret for decades, and it was worse than Hiroshima in the amount of radiation it released. A lot more than that. Chernobyl was 500 times Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Since last week, the plant has been under a notification of unusual event. Notice, you think the alternative media will be able to pick up on this. Turns out this happened over a week and a half ago, and we just now learned about it. I'm going to print all these articles here. You see, I've got all this other big war news I want to get into and all the other news, and this stuff is unfolding, but I'm printing all these articles right now. Here's the FAA press release. Let me get that printed. Yep, that's what they're saying. It's shut down. Can't fly over it because it's so good for you. Now, I don't know if it's a meltdown, as people are saying, but it sounds pretty darn bad. Yeah, electrical fire knocks out spent fuel cooling at Nebraska plant. Guys, get me Paul Watson right now on air, please. Just go ahead and dial in and put him up with me right now. I'll have him do this. Okay, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll probably need to do a news report basically saying that there have been 2 nuclear disasters in North America in the last 3 months that no one is even covering.